Like many others, I participated in the network test of the upcoming Dark Souls Remastered. Firstly, I have to apologize that the footage I have to show here is in 30 FPS. The game did run on 60 FPS, or at least very close to that, but since I only have an old version of Elgato HD as my capture card, I only have an option to either record in 1080p 30 FPS or 720p in 60 FPS. Apparently, the setting for 1080p 30 FPS was turned on while I recorded my clips of the network test, so that's unfortunately what we're looking at here. The network test took place in Undead Parish. The bridge with the Drake was cut off, so were the path that leads to Andre, the ladder leading onto the bridge, and the elevator that descends to the Firelink Shrine. Undead Parish is a good bit of the game for demo purposes because it's early on in the game but has a lot of enemy variety. You could even fight the Gargoyles boss if you wanted to. I didn't do that, but I instead wanted to focus my time on PvP. There were a couple of pre-made characters you could pick from: Soldier, Knight, Witch, Pyromancer, Warrior of Sunlight, and Black Knight. Unfortunately, Black Knight was the only one that had the red eye orb, so most of the network test just consisted of guys running around in the leather cheese strings, swinging their Black Knight swords around that did 3 times more damage than anything else available. So needless to say, these builds weren't balanced for PvP environment at all. Undead Parish as an area is a bit cramped as a PvP spot, even if it does offer some good spots for invaders as well. After I got bored of playing with the Black Knight sword, I used some of my time to farm myself a longsword from one of the undead soldiers, and used that instead. It was a bit rocky ride getting back to Dark Souls PvP again. After all, I have PvP'd in this game last time over 4 years ago. Technically, I only lost like 5 matches within the 4 hours I spent in the network test, but I still felt pretty armless while playing it. I've been spoiled by the movement improvements of the later games in the series, and the weapons are boring as hell in comparison, which wasn't really a problem during my visit back to the single player experience of the game, but it's really noticeable in the PvP, which is, for better or for worse, almost completely unchanged. The only thing that's different I personally noticed is of course the player count raised from 4 to 6 in the same world, invaders being able to use Estus and unable to use Humanity, but also parry timing seemed a bit more responsive now, while toggle escaping felt a bit more strict. However, take this with a grain of salt since, as I already mentioned, the level of rust I have with this game is rather colossal, so I could just remember some things incorrectly. I also hear that dead angling that let you bypass blocking is gone, but I forgot to test this myself. If this is the case, shields might be more prominent in the remastered Dark Souls. All the other things related to PvP seem completely unchanged. It was nice to see Gravelord Covenant working so actively as it did in the network test, but the poor bastards who were actually brave enough to pop that Eye of the Dead were up for some pretty brutal gangbanging. I had fun with Dark Souls PvP again, but there's definitely some improvements that they have implemented in the later games that I can't help myself missing. Connection wise, the network test seemed fine. I could connect to other worlds fast, and aside from a couple of lucky encounters, it was an enjoyable online experience. For now, it would seem that it's going to be the same clunky mess of a combat system being held together by convenient exploits we all know and love, but now in 60 FPS. Well, at least when it comes to PvP. As an invader, I did miss the ability to do this though. But what would a Dark Souls Remastered video be without some talk of the visuals? This is the first time I actually got the chance to see the game running right before my eyes without any outside factors like YouTube bitrate affecting my judgment. The very first thing I did was that I scaled my HUD as small as possible, which was 65% of the original size, and checked that my in-game brightness was on default. The most noticeable change is of course the jump from unstable 30 FPS to pretty stable looking 60 FPS. This unfortunately comes with a pretty heavy-handed motion blur effect, and I didn't find a setting to turn it off. So for console versions of the game, I fear it's there to stay. The textures seem largely untouched, and there were some floor and wall textures that looked more crisp, but I'm not 100% sure if this was the case. The visual effects seen in spells, souls, Estus, fire and so on seem to be redone. This looked a bit too contrasted at first, but as I suspected, my eyes got used to it pretty fast, and overall, some of those look better than in the original game. Some foliage is now animated and you can see some leaves waver in the wind. But hashtag not all leaves. I cannot decide how I feel about the new lighting system. When you're standing close to a light source like a lit bonfire, it can look nice, and the reflections it creates on armor make some sets like Soleil's set look better. But often it just looks more flat than the original lighting was. I bet we can see the most difference in this lighting system in areas like Darkroot Garden, so hopefully it will shine more there. Rather unsurprisingly, the visuals don't match what the PC version already has available, but for those moving from the old generation consoles to the current ones, these visual improvements are nice enough jump in visual quality, I bet. Especially the smoother frame rate that also affects the game feel quite a bit. Probably the best thing this network test and the upcoming Dark Souls Remastered is going to offer is the once again active community. During my 4 hours with the network test, I already ran into familiar faces like Fighter PL, Revian, Yukos Legion and Letovsky. Just the thought of revitalized world of Dark Souls is exciting. Thank you for watching and take care.